So far I've been filming 2 videos every single day, which I think is okay. It's probably not going to be like that in the fall, but we'll get there when we get there. So this next book is called After the Devil Has Won by Rick Wood, and it also came out last year. Uh, so this book is post-apocalyptic. Like, the apocalypse has already happened. We're not still in the midst of it. Everything has just gone to shit. There are monsters. We got monsters, y'all. And the monsters, no one really knows where they came from. The reason it's called After the Devil Has Won is because people say that the monsters came out from hell. Like, there was accounts of some of them climbing out from Mount Vesuvius. So that's pretty neat. The way this book is organized is that I say a lot, don't I? Anyway, the way this book is organized is it's got now, and then it's got then, and then it's at the end it has later. So the way that I'm going to do this so that I'm not confused is I'm going to do it in order for the character, like the character's timeline in order. But like where you start in the book is not where I'm going to start if you choose to read it. It just makes it easier for me. So, starting, Sia is a young mixed girl. Her father is white and her mother was black. Her mother was killed in a car accident, and her dad decided to throw away all of her poetry and stuff like that because he said it hurt too much to have it around, which I guess is a legitimate excuse. I don't like it in stories when people do that, like when you have children. Like, this is going to be a really obscure reference if you don't frequent bad movies or watch the channel Mr. Gigi. In the movie Lowriders, the dad in that movie, when his wife died, he got drunk and threw away all of the pictures, and it's like the pictures of his wife, and it's like nobody's got a Throwback Thursday picture. Like, okay, except for a poem that Sia's mom wrote, and it's kind of a lullaby. I'm not going to recite it. I do not remember it. Sia makes her dad promise never to leave her, so you know immediately that her dad is going to end up leaving her, dying or otherwise. And then the world goes to shit. Monsters. 4 types of monsters, and they come from essentially nowhere. The rich and important people, which is the rich and the scientists and stuff like that, they're all taken to safety. Sia's dad is important, but Sia is not, mostly because she's a mixed girl. And at first, Sia's dad is like, I'm going to stay with you, Sia, and I'm going to see if I can get you in. But then he decides, because he wants to help like the other scientists, that he's going to abandon Sia out in the world, and she sticks around the outside of I guess it's like a dome, the outside of the dome for a little bit. Think what Ronald Reagan wanted to do in the 1980s when he wanted to like put a dome around America, and like, I don't know if that's actually true, but if it's not, it's my favorite myth about a president. Anyway, so that was when. So eventually, Sia is forced to leave by the guards. She can't just be sticking around here. So that was when she was 11. Now she's 17, and she's bitter and she's hardened. Sia met a boy that the audience finds out is named James, but Sia does not know that his name is James because James is autistic, and when he freaks out, he becomes nonverbal. So she calls him boy, but it's kind of. The book switches between third person limited to different characters, and sometimes it's omniscient. Like when we find out James's name, it's omniscient. I'm going to refer to him as boy because that's what Sia calls him. And most of the time we are in Sia's perspective. Sia found him in a gas station. She watched his parents get ripped apart by some of the monsters, and she heard him whimpering in the back. And to get him to be quiet, she used the poem that her mom wrote. Sia's keeping him alive because she doesn't want to be alone again, which is pretty fair. She's kind of happy despite everything. And then, whoops, we got monsters, and they fuck up Sia's whole life. First, she leaves Boy alone, and he covers his ears and babbles, and the noise attracts the monsters. So she has him repeat the poem and puts him in a hole covered by some brush until she can come back. And then Sia's kidnapped by some wasters. Wasters are kind of like a fifth sort of monster, sort of. They're humans who gave up their free will to the monsters in order to survive. Sia is... Wasters are horny and hungry, and it's implied that they did something to her while she was asleep because of the centralization of her pain when she's dreaming. And she wakes up to another one trying something. She kills him, wakes up the whole horde of them. I'll call it a horde, and she's able to escape, and she collapses on a boat, and then she's found by a cult. This cult wants to repopulate the world, so they're forcing people to have sex, and Sia, because she's fertile and 17, or at least she looks fertile, she's going to be a breeder for this cult. At least that's what they think. She needs to escape and find Boy, because by now at least 3 days have gone by, and he hasn't eaten, and winter is coming. So they won't let her leave, and because she wants to leave and she resists, they put her in a prison. And there's this girl that she meets there, Harriet. Harriet is infertile, but they don't care because we don't really have science outside of the protection zones. So they keep trying with her, but it doesn't work. Harriet also knows the poem, but that leads to nowhere, because at the end of this chapter, at least I believe it's one chapter, at the end of this chapter, Harriet will be dead. So Sia is put with a boy who's 15, and she pretends to be into it and then stabs him with an ice pick, and it's pretty amazing. She gets by the guards, and she gets Harriet, and they leave, but then Harriet is killed by a monster immediately before she can tell Sia how she knew the poem. And then Sia goes through the hole, doesn't find Boy, and collapses. And then Dalton finds her, Dalton and his partner. Dalton lives in the place where her father is, and the only reason they take her is because she's reciting the poem, because she's not really asleep, she's just delirious and shit. So Boy is there, and he's being treated like a test subject because he got bit by a laster, but he's not dead. Lasters are monsters that have poison, so he should be dead, but he's not dead. And he's freaking out, but he can't cover his ears because they've chained him for some reason to the wall. He's not a threat, so I don't know what's wrong. As I said, by now at least 5 days have gone by, so clearly, depending on when they found Boy, if he hasn't died yet or hasn't changed into a monster, he's not a threat. Anyway, Sia's pissed about that, pissed about being in this place with all these rich, entitled people who don't know what she and other people like her have gone through in the real world. And she's angry at her dad because her dad was like, oh, Sia, you're here, and now everything's gonna be honky-dory, and we're just gonna live here. He didn't abandon her 6 years ago. So Sia decided to end all these people's careers right now. She goes to see her father and yells at him for what he did to her, and then she releases all of the monsters. Great. Whose idea was it to keep the monsters in the basement of the place where all the rich people are? No matter if you would need as much medicine as they describe to subdue these monsters, why do you have them? Anyway, Sia releases the monster and goes to get Boy. Dalton comes and he helps them, and Boy actually has a moment where he shoots a monster with a BB gun, so that's pretty great. They escape, and there are rich people who are trying to leave who have suitcases in their hands, and it's why? This scene is, I believe this is the scene that's actually paired with the very beginning of the outbreak, because both are in chaos. The scenes do kind of match, for then and now. They all kind of match in the same theme. So they escape, and now Sia does not tell Dalton what happened. So Dalton is under the impression that the monsters just escaped somehow, and he doesn't know that Sia released them. There is a second book, and I hope Dalton finds out, and I hope Sia either dies, or I don't know. And then Sia feels like everything will be fine as long as Dalton never finds out. But the description on Amazon for the other book means he knows. He finds out in that book. So, talking about my points for the book. This first point. So Boy. I mentioned that Boy is autistic, and that this is a post-apocalyptic story, and that Sia is keeping him alive. 2 points with that. Number 1. He's kind of useless, because if there are monsters chasing us and I have the ability to kill them, or at least run, and you don't because you shut down and cover your ears and start mumbling, which is going to attract more monsters, I can't have you with me because you're just a burden. And I know I've been alone for about 6 years now, or 6 years. I think she meets Boy when she's 14. So I know I've been alone for 3 years now, but man, I can't have that. That's such a burden. It's like a follow me quest in a video game, and the person following you is the most inept NPC in the entire fucking world. I hate that so much. Anyway, my second point about that is, see, like, I'm not, when I say that he's useless, I mean in the state that we find him in the book. He does not have to be useless, though. Sia could have taught him, like, appealing to his way of learning, that, like, you've got to try and control this, because if you don't, you could end up dead. Like, if I have to go forage for food and a monster finds you, you could die. We know that he doesn't because of the Laster, but the other monsters will just rip him to shreds. I don't know how the Laster didn't end up killing him. Maybe that's how he was found. Like, the Laster was hurting him, and then the other people found him, but he didn't die immediately, so they took him to the facility. I don't know. It's not explained how they found Boy, but at least I don't remember. But, like, also, none of these are detriments towards the book. These are just character flaws, which I feel like, as a consumer of literature, it's fine for me to point out character flaws, because that means that the book is good. Sia, moving on to point 2, is an extremely flawed person. She is not a good person, and I love it. There aren't a lot of books or movies or just TV shows where the main protagonist isn't a good person. Sia is not a good person. She hasn't really explained to Boy what's happening. They have to pass through a field of monsters, and she distracts him rather than trying to explain to him that, like, hey, this is what's going on in the world. Your parents are dead. Like, we need to defend ourselves. She doesn't explain any of that to him, and that's not good. And then she blames her father for her having to be out in the world by herself, which, yes, it is his fault. He did abandon her. But at the same time, she destroyed the lives of all of these people, all of these, like, rich people who are completely innocent and ignorant of what is going on in the real world. Like I said, when they were trying to escape, they had, like, they had suitcases with them, because they didn't really understand how dangerous the monsters were, because no one told them. And Sia punishes them for that. There's a point where the chaos is happening where Sia says, like, if she had been in the facility with her dad, she would have been just like those people. And her dad dies also because he was down there in the basement with the monsters with her. She is not a good person. Like, I get it. She's angry. And yes, some horrible stuff has happened to her in the last couple of days. But once you cross the line, I stopped caring how you got there. And that's just for real life as well. Again, none of these are detriments to the story. She's a great character. She's just not a good person. I still root for her, though, mostly because I want her to protect Boy. I'm not really rooting for Sia. I'm rooting for Boy's survival. Like, there's no way to come back from this. Like, despite what that cult might think, this is essentially E-Day from Gears of War, like, Emergence Day from Gears of War, with no type of, like, solution in sight. Like, we can't sink Jacinto and flood the Hollow. We can't get rid of the emulsion and then everything will be okay. Like, there's a fourth Gears of War game. There's no easy solution to this. It's basically just E-Day. Like, everything is horrible, but I still want Boy to survive. Dalton. I'm pretty sure Dalton is her love interest, which I'm fine with. He's a chill dude. He saved Sia twice, and he saved Boy, so that puts him in the plus in my pocket. And I also want him to punish Sia in the second book, because you can't just do something like that, because Dalton lived there too, and Dalton wasn't even well liked. He lived there because he could protect the people, because they had guns, but Sia ruined that for him, and now he has to live in this dangerous world and possibly run out of ammo. I don't want Sia happy, I just want Boy protected. Dream sequences. In this story, there are dream sequences. Sia is asleep and she's seeing a white girl who looks like her, but she has blonde hair, blue eyes, and white skin. And Sia says that she wishes she was that girl. And the girl is just kind of sitting there and she's not really saying anything. And Sia interprets that as her taunting her. And it's implied that Sia looks more black than white, which is why she wasn't allowed in the facility with her father, because society and all that, because I guess they didn't know how serious it was back then, which I have no idea how. I think, because it's never clearly said, but the girl, after everything that happens, asks Sia, like adult 17-year-old Sia, where she should go and what she should do. And Sia tells her to just start walking. And what I think that is Sia finally being able to move on from her father's abandonment, because now he's dead, and what are you gonna do? I think it's just to imply that she's moving forward. I think that this is a good book. All of now in the book happens in like 2 weeks. All of then happens in like a week. So life went to shit in 2 weeks, because like it was already shit, but she had boy and they were somewhat happy. Yeah, they had to forage and winter was going to be a problem, but she protected boy for a couple of years by that point. I think he's 5 years, no, not 5, that's too young. I think he's like 3 years younger than her, 3 or 2 years younger than her. I think he met her when he was 13. I just want everything to go to shit for Sia, because she kind of deserves it. So this book goes in between The Dragon's Champion and The Watchtower. As I said, I'm moving the list around. I still got a bunch of books to read. We're going to be at this for a while. But yeah, I think it's a good book. Definitely a trigger warning on it, though. Probably should have put that at the beginning of the video. But yeah, there's some stuff in it that's super not appropriate. And like, if you are not okay with that type of thing, or you have some sort of trauma, I don't think this is the book for you. But it's a good book. I think it's a good book. Yeah.